and welcome to Junk Dilemmas, an Irvine Welsh podcast. My name is Damien Kiley, and every episode myself and possibly others will be discussing an Irvine Welsh book and the movie adaptation of that book. And today is no exception. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Acid House movie, and if you remember the episode on the Acid House book, I had the pleasure of somebody's company, and he's back with me again. It's Mr. James King.
It's great to be back.
How are you doing, Jam?
Good, I'm doing well.
Good stuff. So yeah, we're going to discuss the movie today. Just quickly, once again, the little disclosure, not in any way affiliated with Irvine Welsh. So the views expressed in this podcast are purely ours. And we will be discussing material of an adult and controversial nature. So
extremely.
If you get offended easily, there was, actually speaking of which, there was a programme called Offended with Irvine Welsh on telly there. Did you see it?
No.
Well, I can tell you now, it's very good.
Was it offensive?
I didn't find it offensive. Others
good.
might have, but
they can fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're getting into it. It's the Acid House movie, so let's talk about the backstory. So the long and the short of it, Jem, there's not much of a backstory here.
No,
or at least I couldn't find one. It's directed by a guy called Paul McGuigan. He has gone on to bigger and better things. I think he directed Lucky Number 11 with Bruce Willis. I think I've seen it. I've heard of it. Anyway, that had a lasting effect on both of us, I can see.
Yes.
But he also directed an episode of the Dracula 3-part series that was on BBC only last Christmas. That's quite good. Did you see any of that?
No.
But I can once again tell you it's very good. It's
I must put it on my to-do list.
Put your name down on the video shop list for that one. Oh yeah, and he also directed Victor Frankenstein, which was a pretty big production a few years ago, starring none other than James McAvoy, who of course was also in Filth by Irvine Welsh, the movie version.
All right.
What else do we have on the Acid House? In some English-speaking countries like Canada and the US, it had to be screened with subtitles because of the Scots accents, the Edinburgh accents, which they were quite strong in this at times.
Strong enough,
more stronger than Trainspotting. And also, apparently, none other than Sean Connery was approached and offered the role of God, which, surprise, surprise, he declined.
I can't believe he declined it. It's right up his street.
Well, considering what a connection he has, whether he likes it or not, with Trainspotting, Sean Connery, God rest his soul, would have been perfect for this role, but we'll talk about the guy who played him instead. And the other thing I just have is of note, the poster of the film or the video at the time doesn't actually feature any of the bigger names. So there's no Kevin McKidd or Ewan Bremner, not even a Martin Clunes, who would have been big enough at the time, of course.
He would have been huge at the time, actually.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they got him at the time.
They obviously blew their budget on Martin Clunes, and hence why Sean Connery had to take a walk.
They blew it all over Martin Clunes. Terrible.
They really did. Clunes everywhere. But no, they went for Bob, Larry and Kirsty from the 3 respective stories. But that's all I've got in the backstory, Jam. Anything yourself?
No.
Okay, thanks for that. So let's get on with the plot and structure. Actually, scrap that. We're not going to do that. Let's get on with the breakdown of the story. So yeah, opening credits. First music we hear, I suppose it's worth noting there is obviously a movie soundtrack here, but it's nowhere near as memorable as Trainspotting. But there is some good tunes by some good bands, so I will mention the ones that I liked anyway. So first up is Primal Scream with a song called Insect Royalty. I don't know whether that's a happy coincidence given the story we're about to introduce here, or whether it was specially written for the movie or maybe even the book in mind, because I did wonder that about the song Trainspotting that they do for the movie Trainspotting. Did they write it for the movie or just because they were fans of the book, if you get me?
I know. Get you.
Bobby Gillespie is good mates with Irvine Welsh though. But anyway, Insect Royalty, and we're into the first of the 3 tales. It's the Granton Star Cause. And first man on the screen is none other than Irvine Welsh.
The man himself.
Yeah. He's sweeping up. He's the sweeper of this football team. Ha ha. He's in a Reservoir Dogs t-shirt, first of all, first thing I noticed. The other thing, as I read it now, I'm thinking, he's basically playing the role that guy, Brian, was the job he had in that story, a smart cunt.
Oh yes, that's it, yeah, so from the book, yeah.
They could have actually called him that, but I suppose everyone knows it's Irvine Welsh. They could have done that little skit where he's apologise.
About the boiler.
Yeah, he's
they should have asked,
apologising and then putting it on for himself because he's going out that night. But we see Bob, as he's written here, Boab.
Bob.
And he's played by a guy called Stephen McCole. I think he's quite good in this role, in fairness. He's getting lambasted by his teammates here, just slagging him basically. Bit of dressing room banter.
I think when they cast him, I don't think he's fat enough or ugly enough for the role. He seems quite normal.
Yeah, well, he's possibly not as fit as his teammates here, but that's possibly not saying much either.
I seen the standard of football we're playing at.
Yes.
There's not a lot of fit players in that standard.
No. Well, apart from the long-haired Adonis Tambo, who we see here. But just on Stephen McCole, I haven't seen him in too much, but I did see him in a thing called Save Me, which was on Sky last year. There's 2 series of it, the one where the girl gets kidnapped.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He was in that, and I recognised him. He's obviously 20, 25 years older, and I didn't recognise who he was in it, but I did recognise his face, and I had to do the old IMDb on him to see it was him. But he was also in Taggart. I must remind people who've listened to the Trainspotting movie episode that I did point out each and every cast member of that who had appeared in Trainspotting. And I'm going to play that fun game again today, James.
Thanks. I can't wait.
So yeah, Bob is having a hard time for his mates, and it doesn't get any better when he gets out on the pitch. As you say,
Gets a lot worse.
The standard of football is not good.
No nets. I still can't get over that. No nets.
I don't know if I think it's mentioned in the book, isn't it, that they're hoping to progress to the stage of having nets.
Progress up the leagues to a league where they actually have nets.
Corner flags?
No,
out of the question.
Just nets.
But yeah, Tambo, as you say, he's standing out here as the star player. He's played by a guy called Simon Weir, also in Taggart. He scores here. And then the team captain, who's a mate of Bob, he's called Kev. He's played by a guy called Gary Sweeney. Guess what he was in?
Taggart.
Yes.
He's really annoying, I find.
Do you reckon? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, luckily he's not in it too much.
No, he's way too obvious. He's too in your face. It's just...
Well, he's the captain of the team here. He's the voice of reason that's keeping these guys together.
Surely there's a manager of the team. It's not like cricket for fuck's sake.
He's not introduced whatsoever. I mean, they could have had Irvine Welsh as the manager,
exactly,
I suppose. But
I think they could have done a lot better. It's much better in the book.
For a team with no nets in their goals, that we could have at least had a better manager here.
Yes.
It is Kev that seems to make the difficult decision, egged on by Tambo, to drop Bob. So they're back.
A heap of points, obviously.
A heap of points, yeah. Well, they're back in one of the many fine establishments that's in this film, this lovely looking pub. And yeah, they break the news to Bob that he's been dropped from the team.
The thing I like about this is a lot of the players are wearing the jerseys they've just worn.
Yes, including Bob. Yeah,
including Bob, into the pub, tucked into their jeans.
Well, that ensures that no odours get out from underneath the shirt, of course.
I remember I used to play with a fella, and he was a goalkeeper, and all he'd wear out, whether it was day or night, all he'd wear out was a Liverpool jersey, tucked into his jeans.
I was going to say it was just a jersey, but and no pants whatsoever. But he
wore pants, luckily
tucked
enough.
into his foreskin.
Well, I didn't see that, but that could have happened. I'm not going to say it didn't happen.
Typical Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
I may or may not edit that out. But yeah, Bob obviously doesn't take the news too well. When Kev says to him that this is a team that's going places, he just loses it altogether. And I do like his retort here where he's, going places, fucking going places. Piece of shite, along those lines. But yeah, as you say, no shower for Bob. He's just out of there. And he
whips the top off on the way home.
He does, yeah. He's no shame whatsoever.
No.
He wants to show off that beautiful body a little bit.
Quite the physique, indeed.
Swaps into an equally fetching t-shirt.
Oh yeah, it was Kev who was wearing the Hibs away jersey.
Was it? Yeah, I didn't notice that at all.
It was horrific looking. It was purple and green from the late 90s, so it was real baggy as well. It was shocking.
90s football jerseys out of muck. Jay dumps the Granton jersey in the street, and he's into his house, and we meet his very sexy parents.
Well, one of them is.
We leave the listener to decide which one. But yeah, his parents are played by Alex Howd, is the dad here. Guess what? He was in Taggart.
He was.
He also died in 2015.
God rest his soul.
In fairness, I think he plays the father well here.
That's brilliant.
He really does.
The parents are brilliant in this.
Yeah, his mother is played by a woman called Annie Louise Ross, who was also in Taggart, and she was also in Robsy Nesbitt, which I also mentioned on this podcast.
She was, what's his name? Jamesy's wife, wasn't it?
I didn't recognise her whatsoever.
Yeah, she plays the exact same type of character.
Oh, typecast. That's the danger of it all,
Fond
right?
of the fags and Robsy Nesbitt as well.
Is she fond of defecating in her husband's mouth?
Surprisingly enough, for 9 o'clock on the BBC Two, with Robsy Nesbitt never went into the shiting into your husband's mouth scenario. But maybe a later time slot it could have.
Absolutely, yeah. Robsy Nesbitt after dark. But yeah, they break the news to Bob that he's going to have to move out, you know. And I love the line from the father here. You don't want people to think that you're a queer fella living at home at 23. But they also explain that they need time to themselves to sort out their complicated lives.
And some lustily looks at each other when they're...
Indeed, yeah, there's eyebrow-raising stuff here. There's definitely something a bit fishy.
Certainly. Doreen almost slips off the chair. She's that wet thinking about it.
But it is agreed that him moving out is mutually advantageous.
And he gets 2 weeks grace, so...
He does, yeah, he's 2 weeks.
Fair play to them.
Absolutely, yeah. Lovely parents. Parents of the year. And he seeks solace then by ringing up his darling girlfriend, Evelyn. It
was far too good for him, clearly.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's a little bit annoying, but yes, she probably is a bit too good for Bob, all right. He rings her from a phone box, of course. Actually, this girl playing her, Jenny McCrindle, she's actually 30 years of age playing, I think, a 20-year-old here, which
Jesus,
in fairness to her.
Yeah.
And she actually sadly passed away as well in 2014 at just 46. So I don't know. I didn't look that far into it, I'm afraid. But she was in Taggart, so she makes the list.
All right, that's good.
But yeah, she's had enough of fat, lazy Bob, as she says. But I think personally they're well shot of each other. But yeah, needless to say, Bob doesn't take this news very well at all, and he gets quite nasty.
Very nasty.
He does. As we mentioned in the book, he's not very complimentary to her, and he's calling her every name under the sun.
It's the only bit of passion he shows in the whole thing, really.
Well, certainly more passion than he showed on the pitch.
Or in the bedroom.
Yes, well, definitely, apparently so. Luckily, we weren't subjected to any of Bob's previous sex adventures in the form of a sex scene here. But she does reveal that she's found a real man, and that really makes him lose it. And she hangs up and he starts vandalising the phone box. As I think we mentioned on the book, very nostalgic of phone vandalism.
Yeah, Jesus.
What was the Bob Geldof? Do you remember the ad campaign? Have we mentioned this?
No.
It was a version of Brick in the Wall, but it was Bob Geldof. Hey, you, arsehole, leave that phone alone. Maybe that was just in my head, but
it sounds brilliant.
If it was, fair play to
they should bring it back.
Absolutely. But yeah, he gets caught by the police as he's beating up this phone box. And a really funny scene where the two coppers, the copper who arrested him and then the returning sergeant.
Played by Bob Geldof.
Bob Geldof. I wish. So they're, as you mentioned on the book episode, they're running through the list of prisoners they have for the night. So there's the guy who stabbed someone. They have a rapist. But essentially, none of them are as bad as Bob.
Not at all. The other two are grand.
The other two are grand. Boys will be boys. And apparently the girl was asking for it. But yeah, Bob is the scum of the earth because, as we learned, the sergeant has shares in BT. So Bob is subjected to some police brutality here.
Single-handedly as well. I was impressed with that. I thought the two of them might do it, but he took a lot of pleasure doing it on his own.
Absolutely. If a job's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
I suppose, yeah.
Something along those lines. I can't remember what I was going to say there. But he makes it out the next day and goes straight to work, in fairness to him.
Yeah, fair.
Doesn't take the day off work after spending the night in a prison cell.
Getting the shy kicked out. It probably wasn't a wise decision.
No. Well, either way, it didn't matter because he gets sacked, or at least his position is made redundant. His boss is called Rafferty here. He's played by a man called Stuart Preston. Yes, he was in Taggart.
Of course he was.
One of his workmates here, I don't know if you noticed, is actually a guy called Gary McCormick, who plays Larry in the second story. Yeah. I don't know whether he's meant to be playing the same character here. I don't think so, because he doesn't have the bleach blonde hair.
I couldn't imagine Larry working.
No, exactly. And he doesn't come across half as arrogant here as Larry at all. So double jobbing here, double characters in the Irvine Welsh universe for Gary McCormick. But
I think they rushed the sacking a bit. They just sort of call him in and says you're sacked, whereas in the book, yeah, Rafferty went through a whole spiel of shite.
Yeah, well,
because he was on some course.
We're on the time limit here.
I suppose.
But yeah, he makes his way to another. Is it? Well, I think it's probably the same pub again. Is it?
Oh, no, it's a different pub.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's drowning his sorrows anyway in a lovely, fine establishment, which is filled with, I suspect, not real actors here. I think these are real people that were just in the pub at the time of filming.
Yeah, it was about 9 a.m, so real pissheads. They really look like it, in fairness. So if they are actors, sorry, but
they're method actors.
They're taking it to the nth degree there.
Daniel Day-Lewis shit going on here.
I'm telling you.
But enter God, who is played by Morris Reeves.
Roves.
Yeah,
perhaps.
him.
He plays him well, in fairness.
He does. I mean, I recognise the actor. I don't know exactly what he was in. Obviously, I know a little bit of what he was in because I fucking looked it up. But as soon as I seen him, and you kind of recognise his face. Yes, he was definitely in Taggart. Of course he was.
He was Taggart.
And he sadly only died in July of this year, this horrible year 2020 that we're living in. He's also the only actor who's in the 3 stories here in the film. Yeah. I didn't notice him in the second story, I have to say, but apparently he plays a drunk. Did you notice him?
Yeah, at the wedding.
Okay.
He comes over talking to your man who kicks the shite out of the other fella.
All right, okay. Well, we'll get to him.
All right.
But yeah, it's a good performance here by him for definite, and a good exchange here with Bob. So the two actors are playing their roles well here. And, you know, obviously Bob, as in the book, is questioning God's will and his ways. But God obviously proves who he actually is by rehashing all of Bob's life story. All his failures. All his failures, all in Leith tongue. So God is feeling very vengeful here. And as you mentioned in the book episode, he sees his own faults in Bob's faults. So he's going to punish him because he can't punish himself, obviously.
Yeah, for being a lazy cunt.
Yeah, exactly. And he does explain that he's appearing as a Scottish outlaw because that's all Bob's imagination will allow, yeah. Which is good. So he sees Bob as an insect, and this is when he has the epiphany to turn Bob into an insect. And there's no dazzling special effects here whatsoever now.
No, it's...
It's just, in fairness, it's not bad. It just goes to a point of view shot, and you hear some kind of like an astronaut saying ready launch or some shit like that. And I suppose it must have been a drone used here.
Yeah,
which is quite fancy for 1998.
Fancy, yeah. I know a camera stuck to a balloon or something.
I was going to say a camera stuck to an arse. I don't know why I thought you were going to say that. But
an arse balloon.
But we get Summer Wind by Frank Sinatra here, which is a good choice. And Bob is flying around with these dazzling shots, aerial shots of
Scenic Leith.
Scenic Leith, indeed. He goes to visit your favourite character here, Kev. He writes his name in the wall in ketchup. And, you know, it's kind of an unnecessary scene because he doesn't... I know in the book he hangs around Kev's house for a few days and gets attacked by, you know, spiders and shit, but that doesn't happen here. I don't know why he went back to see Kev at all, other than to prove what he said to him in the pub was right, that he was going to be turned into a fucking fly. But he heads off then to Evelyn's house, and this is where it's revealed that her new man is none other than star player, the long-haired Adonis Tambo.
Stole his place on the team.
Stole his place in the vagina as well.
Well, it's an Irvine Welsh book, so it's probably the arse.
Yes, well, it's hard to tell, but, you know, there's a lot of orgasmic moaning and shouting here. It's
uncompromising positions.
Absolutely. It's a sight to behold. It's probably understandable given this long-haired dynamo is in the driving seat here instead of Bob. But I do like his compliment to Evelyn's kind of sexual prowess here. He says, "Oh, look at me, Mr. Fuck Red Raw Balls."
Now, what woman wouldn't want to hear that?
Absolutely. Pillow talk at its finest. And obviously Bob is disgusted by this and goes outside to get tooled up, as it were.
Feast on some feces.
He does. It's a particularly huge, runny-looking pile of shite that he finds outside. That dog needs to be brought to a vet post-haste.
Well, this is Leith, so I don't know if it was a dog.
It was Bob's mother.
Yeah. Bob's father, after they took out the particular implement.
But But yeah, back in he goes and he deposits some of this said shite into a curry, which, as we mentioned in the book episode, is handily left on the bedside locker.
Oh, it's rotten. Jesus Christ. And then he started eating it.
They do.
Oh my God.
There's no idea how long it's there. I would imagine
Well,
it's
considering
stone cold.
it looked like they've been at it for, well, he's red raw ball, so they've been at it for ages. And suddenly decided to eat some cold.
Well, maybe the
Was it
heat from
Indian?
there. Possibly so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a weird colour.
Yeah. It was even weirder after Bob was at it.
That's true.
But maybe the heat of their passion that we seen was enough to keep the curry hot. But with their popper fueled romp was enough to get them going again. Yeah. Incidentally, at this point, who's your favourite man trapped in a fly's body from a movie? Is it Bob here, or would it be Jeff Goldblum in The Fly?
I'll be Bob, because I don't like Jeff Goldblum.
Okay, what about Vincent Price in the original Fly?
Vinny's alright.
Vinny's.
Be Vinny or Bob, I'd say.
I would have said Jeff Goldblum, I have to be honest, but that's the difference between you and me. But he heads off then to his old boss's Rafferty back in the office, and he puts some rat poison in his sandwich. Again, it's a quick enough scene. There's not much time given it.
Once again, there wasn't enough Rafferty.
There wasn't enough time to employ this man for more than a few seconds at a time.
Big bucks, obviously.
Absolutely. Almost as much as Sean Connery. But then we get to a very disturbing scene, and unfortunately a very memorable scene that's kind of embedded in your head after you've watched it. We see Bob.
Disturbing is very harsh.
Some would say sexy.
Yes, some would say erotic.
So we see Bob Senior. He's clad in some sort of lingerie, I think.
No, I don't think he's not.
No, is he not?
No.
Maybe that's in the book. They definitely describe.
Oh yeah, describe it in the book.
He's dressing in some form.
No, yeah, he's in the book. He has a gimp mask on and a gag ball in his mouth, but not in this one.
Okay, well, he saved some dignity, so by the sounds of it.
I think was there Maureen or what's her name?
Doreen.
I think Doreen's wearing some.
Oh,
sexy,
she's definitely racy as fuck.
Yeah, sexy number.
Yeah, and basically she's pegging Bob Senior here.
For those of you who don't know, pegging is,
of course, sorry,
the insertion of an implement
in a male
anus by a female.
Yep, and she's questioning him hard here. She's hitting him,
interrogating him. Some would say,
absolutely. Yeah, she wants to know exactly who he's been seeing behind her back. And after a while, he gives in. And
he cracks. She cracks that nut, literally,
or nuts that crack. And he reveals that he has been seeing Dolly Parton and Madonna.
Dirty bastard.
He has his pick of them, Bob Senior.
But Doreen certainly has a way of punishing.
She does. That means Bob only Senior. One thing. You know what that means, she says. As Bob says then, and I love his kind of change of heart here halfway through this little rant. He's like, oh no.
Oh, don't shite my mouth. Don't shite my mouth. Shite in my mouth. Shite in my mouth. Oh, it's brilliant. I remember that's the best scene in the whole film.
Does he actually mention he's got to eat it as well?
I think he mentions it in the book.
Yeah.
I think in this it's just shite in my mouth. Shite in my mouth.
They just went for the catchy catchphrase here. Yeah. This is this film's version of Choose Life.
Shite in my mouth.
That should have been on the video box.
Fucking would have sold millions.
And we then get a montage then. Obviously it's kind of through the night. We get a montage of Tambo, Evelyn and Mr. Rafferty puking violently.
Surprisingly enough.
Absolutely. We got a shot of Dorian's bare arse as well. I have down here pumping away on Bob Senior.
Bit of a treat for us there.
Oh, and then it goes back to Bob, aka the Fly, is flying around here, annoying the fuck out of them. Highly disturbed, I imagine, by what he's seeing.
He really should have got out.
He should have.
I don't know why he stuck around for that.
He was shell shocked. Yeah. But another funny bit, she gets a call on the phone, and they kind of stop what they're doing momentarily.
She unhinges herself from the dildo.
Yes, so the implement is still lodged up Bob Senior.
One of them said to leave it in. I think he says leave it in.
Did he? Yeah.
Leave it in.
That was his preference.
Yes, that's what it is.
They worked so hard to get it in there. What's the point in taking it out and starting all over again? So yeah, she's shooting the breeze on the phone with her daughter while Bob Senior's still standing there with the dildo up him. And then Doreen takes a swat at Bob's Junior and hits the Fly, and he goes down, and there's a clever line, well done, Doreen, says Bob Senior. That fly was more annoying than Bob Junior. So, we're back to the shots then. Obviously, this one, is the one through the night, and we see Rafferty, Tambo, and Evelyn looking pretty fucked. I don't know, are they meant to be dead here?
Well, they're after eating a load of shit.
Well, would the shit kill you that quickly?
Probably not. I'd say
they're bedridden. Yeah, is the best way of describing it.
They don't feel well.
They don't feel like finishing the curry.
A little dicky tummy.
A bit like Bob Senior. He's got a dicky tummy as well.
They would have rang in the next day into work.
Yeah.
Bit of a little dicky tummy.
Well, no point in ringing Mr. Rafferty, because he definitely looks dead. I imagine he is dead from the rat poison, yeah?
I would imagine. Well, there was blood coming out of his mouth.
Yes.
So that's never a good sign.
It's almost as bad as blood coming out of your arse.
Well, I prefer it out of me. Well, depends how you're bleeding, I suppose.
Depends what your pleasure is.
True.
And we see a shot of Bob's parents lying in bed, obviously tired out from their afternoon and evening of passion.
But contented.
Absolutely contented. But the camera pans down to the sitting room then, and we see Bob back in human form, and he's obviously lying there dead on the carpet. So that's how it ends. The camera pulls back then out onto the glorious Leith sunshine again. And we're into the second story. And folks, don't forget to follow our social media accounts. On Facebook, it's Junk Dilemmas, an Irvine Welsh podcast. On Instagram, it's junk_dilemmas. And on Twitter, it's junk_dilemmas. So check them out for updates on new episodes and content. And we're into the second story, which is entitled A Soft Touch. So it starts off, we're in a rather fantastic karaoke pub. It's got everything really, all mod cons. All mod cons.
Well, there's a lot of cons in there, I'd say.
That's you putting cons in my head. It has everything, this pub, all mod cons, pool tables, slot machines, karaoke, brilliant clientele. This is obviously where the guy who plays God is spotted again. No, you said he's at the wedding.
He's at the wedding, yeah. A happy day.
But we're introduced to Johnny, played by Kevin McKidd here.
Yeah, he plays him absolutely brilliantly.
He does. He's looking well here. He really is. He's
looking snazzy denim jacket.
Absolutely, yeah. Fresh off the rack.
Late 90s, everything baggy except the Ronnie. Oh my God.
Does he have the Ronnie?
He does have a Ronnie.
I didn't think he had the Ronnie until they do the flashbacks.
I think he has the Ronnie the whole way through.
I didn't think he did. But anyway, he looks great regardless. But and so does his ex,
yes.
Katrina.
Fine woman.
We know all about Kevin McKidd, obviously, from Trainspotting, and I did speak about him on the Trainspotting episode that, I've since seen him more than anyone really, because he's in that show, Grey's Anatomy. But that
Father
Siobhan,
Ted.
Well, he was in the episode of Father Ted, and I did mention that. But Siobhan, my wife, watches Grey's Anatomy, or did, so every time I come into the sitting room, I've seen Tommy, God rest his soul. But Katrina is played by an actress called Michelle Gomez. She was in Taggart. And she's in the family way here again, apparently. But yeah, she's looking well, and
looking classy.
I was going to say Tommy. Johnny, remarks on such that she's looking well, and then we get a flashback to their wedding day, which was
happy
held
times.
Absolutely, and
the same pub, I'd say, it looks like.
Well, I thought it looked like a community centre here. It was definitely the most exotic 90s wedding after Posh and Beck's, I think. But this is where I noticed the great tash on Johnny, I have to say. And also a lot more real extras in this establishment. There's definitely not a room full of actors here.
Definitely not.
No. Katrina's brother Alec ruins the big day by assaulting a chap.
Not according to God. When he kicks the shite out and God comes home and says it makes a good wedding.
Oh, of course.
A good swage.
I totally missed that.
Yeah.
But no, do you know why that was? Because I was concentrating on the guy playing Alec. His name is Tam Dean Byrne. And I know his name from, he does the audiobooks of all the Irvine Welsh novels. So he's good old voice on him for those books. He performs them well. But he was in another Welsh play at the time as well called Head State, which I still to read the book of that. But Tam Dean Byrne was also in Taggart.
Of course.
And he assures Johnny that nobody will fuck with him now because he's in the Doyle family. I don't know if they actually used the surname Doyle here, which is what there was from the book. This obviously proves not to be the case.
Certainly not.
Everyone fucks with Johnny. But interestingly as well, this guy Alec isn't seen again, which is slightly different from the book. He is mentioned a bit more in the book. We see them in their lavish new pad then.
Marriage bliss.
Absolutely. And Johnny is left with the baby. He's heading out with the baby in the buggy. And this is when we meet the character of Larry, who's moving in here. And he's kind of copping Johnny straight away for the pushover that he is. You can see him sizing him up. And so Johnny's left with the baby all the time, it seems. And we see Katrina then getting all dolled up for a night out. I have to say, Johnny is quite lecherous here. He's grabbing her behind at every chance he gets.
He's looking for a ride before she headed out.
He definitely is, yes.
She wasn't playing ball.
No. And he's also nervously inquisitive about where she's going. This is despite the fact that he's given her, I think, 20 quid to go out and enjoy herself.
A fortune.
Absolutely. Well, back then, probably get you a good night out and lead. But he gets a bit aggressive then, about her appearance. I think we mentioned this in the book episode. He's no angel, really. He has some strange methods here to, interrogate her as we're. And as I say, he's constantly trying to feel her arse. But Larry introduces himself to her on the staircase and compliments her in a very Larry-like gentlemanly
Larry lecherous way.
Absolutely.
You can feel the electricity.
Absolutely. And there's more sizing up then of Johnny by Larry when he makes himself at home in their apartment. Katrina rolls in late then, looking a little worse for wear, has to be said. But she does have more money than she went out with.
Which leaves a few questions in Johnny's mind.
It really does. Very suspicious, all right. I suppose what can best be described as some domestic disturbance follows then. All too familiar scenes to a lot of homes around the world, I suppose. And then we cut to a very memorable scene. It's Larry himself rising from the bed and preparing himself for the day. He has some strange rituals. We're treated to Hot Love by T-Rex here.
Yes, I remember that. Quite the mover.
He really is.
He probably could have put some pants on, but...
Well, he does have those fetching tracksuit bottoms that were all the rage with a certain demographic in the late 90s. The ones that button down the sides.
Yeah, like Ricky and Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, you can kind of turn them into chaps if you want to.
You should bring them back.
They're very versatile pants. He's doing press-ups here and then some, as you say, some naked mirror dancing. But I suspect Larry might have a high opinion of himself.
Massive, I'd say.
He makes himself at home again downstairs.
Sends Johnny down to get some drink.
Johnny comes in and sees the cozy setup here and he kind of sarcastically offers to go and get Larry a takeaway and the video.
Oh yes, the video, of course.
The hot off the press Die Hard 2, Die Harder. I'm just thinking about the fact that, you used to have to go out and get videos. It's amazing. It's so long ago now. You'd nearly wish it came back, wouldn't you?
It'll come back, don't
you think?
Of course it will. Everything comes around again.
But Johnny doesn't. He fucks off to his mother's house, and it's here where she starts talking about how that he is a soft touch, just like his old man was, and he doesn't agree, but I think everyone else would. He's minding his daughter again here. We're then treated to some more passionate lovemaking upstairs. So we kind of see almost a split screen at times where Johnny is downstairs minding the baby, feeling sorry for himself, and upstairs is Larry.
Getting lashed over.
Yes, Larry's being the perfect gentleman here. Oh, how do you best describe this? I think at one point Katrina has concerns about anal, and Larry uses the phrase, "It's all right, doll, the pole's well greased." So we learn as well that Johnny's TV and video has been taken upstairs, so in his words, he can't even show the little baby her Postman Pat video. Then we see Larry, he's doing some renovations. He's basically
on both flats.
Absolutely. He's hammering a hole in his floor, aka Johnny's ceiling, and running a cable through it. And this is to obviously steal Johnny's juice from downstairs.
Because the bastards cut his juice off.
They did. Something to do with him not paying the bill, which is just doesn't sound reasonable whatsoever. But he threatens Johnny as well not to touch it. And then he kind of rubs it in further by, going on about Katrina's sexual
Prowess.
exploits or prowess, yes. And this is where he comes up with the really gentlemanly revelation. Once you've done a bird up the arse, she's wrapped around your finger. So I wonder, is that what Sting was singing about in the Police's early 80s hit?
Known Sting, I'd say it definitely is.
Well, Sting is more in favour of the tantric sex than your classic anal.
Well, it can be both can be combined.
You can really. You can mix it up a bit. Multitasking. But he also makes a horrible comment here about the baby, which I'm not going to repeat, but basically compares her to her mother. At this point, Johnny should have fucking just attacked him with something, but he doesn't.
No.
He doesn't now because he has a soft touch. But it is kind of the last straw for him. He also offers, as well as in the book, Larry offers for Johnny to have sex with Katrina again if he wants, but for a price this time. But yeah, as I say, Johnny's had enough of this. He gets Chantel, which is the baby's name, out of there to his mother's. And he also removes the cable. He reefs it down out of the hole and he boards up the hole. So he's taking a stand here, or it seems anyway.
Works out well.
Yeah. There's also a lot of shots I noticed of him here walking past. It looks like either an old community centre or an old cinema.
Cinema, yeah.
Is it a cinema?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a famous landmark for certain residents around there. I'm not sure. But he gets back to the flat then and we see Katrina. She's kind of basically luring him outside into the lovely garden area of this block of flats. And Larry is there waiting for him and proceeds to give him a bit of a kicking.
Kicks the shite out of him.
He does. Johnny does slap Katrina back though, which is, again, he's no angel here whatsoever. He's far from perfect. That's kind of it for a while. He seems to get his life a little bit back on track.
Seems to be going well for him.
It does, yeah. He's working in a supermarket.
Having serious work bands with the ladies.
He really is. He's having the crack with a nice female co-worker here who looks a lot nicer than Katrina, in fairness.
And probably isn't on the game.
But we're also treated to the sounds of Oasis Going Nowhere here. One of the other few songs of note for me on the soundtrack. And then we're back. We see Larry is holding a party in his flat. And at this point, Katrina doesn't like it. She doesn't, the shoe is on the other foot here. She's pregnant again. And
surprisingly enough, considering what Larry had said about his penetrative skills.
Absolutely. And this might be why things are coming to an end for them. Yeah, she's not happy that Larry is showing his affections to another lady that's there. And we're also treated to a kind of creepy little inner monologue from Larry where he mentions that he never uses condoms. Just another one of his life mantras here.
Words of wisdom from Larry. And he has his hair dyed like some sort of cheetah.
He's a very stylish man, Larry.
True.
But that's kind of it for Larry and Katrina. That's all we see of Larry. And we get back to the present time and we see that it looks like Katrina is kind of wooing Johnny once again here.
Johnny's in the pub with his new missus.
Is it his new missus?
She's down the other end.
I didn't cop that he was actually with her. I knew there was a thing between him and this is the co-worker, is it?
Yeah, it was her. She looks a lot better than Katrina.
Indeed she does. And I wager is a nicer person.
Yes.
But this isn't enough.
Katrina is bursting pregnant as well. having a fag and a couple of points.
Absolutely.
She's about 9.5 months pregnant.
But she's doing enough here to convince Johnny to head off with her back to an old haunt, I think, where there's a good one-armed bandit waiting for him. And we see them sitting down to have a nice pleasant drink, and I can only imagine that things will be fine for Johnny from this point on.
He's back to winner. He can't lose.
He really has. And that's story 2. And we're into the third and final story, which is entitled The Acid House. This is basically Ewan Bremner playing a character called Coco Bryce.
Badly cast, I thought.
Do you reckon, yeah?
Oh, he's supposed to be this hard man, and then he's spud. He's just a little...
Well, yeah, he's definitely not likeable at all at the start here.
No, he's not likeable, but even the size of him, and he's supposed to be a Hibs casual. And
I don't know whether I suppose I would have not seen this before I read the book, but I do associate the two so closely together. But I always thought that he thought he was a bigger man than he obviously was. But there's definitely a lot of comic relief that's either... there was comic relief to the character in the story, I think, but it's certainly brought across here by, as you say, it's very hard to disassociate him from Spud.
Yeah. No, but even just his physical size.
Oh yeah,
To play the
obviously,
part
yeah,
of a
yeah.
hard man. And you just see Spud comes in and just said, no, sorry. Even he, at one stage, he's in the pub and he tells two young fellas who are bigger than him to fuck off. And they're, it's Coco Bryce. And just said, no. He'd kick the shit out of him.
Well, maybe he takes the Begbie method, who was not a big man either, and just.
But he had the tash.
He did. Absolutely.
He was clean shaven in this and everything. He looked like a tom.
So we see him here at the start. There's a couple of little scenes of him with his girlfriend hanging around this kind of derelict playground area. But then he does drop some acid. It's a Super Mario, apparently, where it looks like, I thought it had a devil's head on it, no?
I think it did, but it's in the book, it's called Super Mario's.
Yeah, we see him in a pub after dropping the acid then, so he's bringing his girlfriend out for a hot date here while he's off his face on acid. He
hadn't told her, mind you.
No.
Like, in fairness, I think if you're going out, just the two of you might say, we'll have a bit of acid. No. I'll just take it on my own and then see what happens.
Especially to this fucking workman's pub or whatever they're in. But yeah, he's voicing his concerns about the kid. He's complaining about this Barnes in the pub, basically. As I say, he doesn't come across as a likeable character here at all. You know, just he's a bit of an arsehole. And he's certainly voicing his concerns about getting married as well. He's trying to be aggressive, as you say, but it's not coming across great. The scene cuts then to the other side of the tracks, as it were, and we see this character Jenny, who's heavily pregnant, and she's married to Rory, who's played by Martin Clunes, who we know, obviously.
Plays a Wally very, very well.
He really does, yeah. I think he played this type of character a lot. Jenny,
he took it to the next level with this fella.
Yeah. Well, Rory is kind of a bit of an old plonker in the book as well, isn't he?
He is.
But Jenny here is played by Gemma Redgrave, she of the famous Redgrave family. And I must mention, when I was looking up the old IMDb, as I do for all these actors, her very first acting role was in Tales of the Unexpected. She was in an episode in 1988. Yeah.
Was she in Taggart?
She actually wasn't, no.
Bitch.
So far, nobody I've mentioned here in this story has been in Taggart. It's very poor form altogether.
Very.
But we see that the storm has started and Coco has somehow ditched his girlfriend, or maybe she's ditched him, and he's just hanging around this fucking shite derelict playground.
This is so annoying, this part. It just dragged on for...
Well, he's kind of... he's ranting on about, he's got these kind of Hibs chants and, as you say, acting the hard man, and
to nobody, to himself.
Well, he is on acid, so maybe he thinks he's got a full audience there.
But even the noise and the shite in the background is just really driving me mad.
It's purposely.
I know in the book it was book went on for a while, but you get through it. It didn't come across well in the film. Yeah,
this was a major example of the kind of experimental writing that Welsh does in the book, where, there's, words running off the pages. And I think we mentioned it, there's one or two pages in the book that just has the word light, and there's kind of ramblings in between it. But it's cut between him acting the maggot here on this playground and Jenny basically going into labour. He says his name a lot as well. Coco Price. He
talks about himself in the third person.
He really does. He does. He says his name more than The Rock says his own name. The lightning hits him and the ambulance that Jenny is in at the same time. And we get this weird kind of flashback scenes, hallucinations then for Coco, where we're back to his childhood here. We see his very muscular, abusive father here, who's demanding that he goes out and gets him 20 fucking Regal. And Chemical Brothers are heard here as well. Leave home. God is back. What's the chap's name?
God is...
Reeves.
Roves.
Morris.
Elmo Roves.
El Morris Roves, who, has only just left us. So he's back here. He's God, or he's playing a priest. But he's handing out communion, which is acid. We see Coco taking the communion, the acid as it were, and then we get more shots of him in his kind of Hibs casual days. He's celebrating with other Hibbies. We get some kind of really aggressive point of view shots of him where he's spitting on the camera, and then there's this continuous welcome to the family. Whether it's welcome to the family, the Hibs family, or his own family, his mother is doing it as well. But it's very annoying as well. There's a succession here of about 5 minutes of really weird shots, essentially. There's a flashback to him telling Kirsty he loves her as well. But then we see him kind of splashed with a massive amount of water as he's kind of born or reborn. And this is obviously where the switch is taking place. Again, no dazzling special effects. He's just basically takes the place of Jenny's baby and vice versa. And poor old, what's the baby's name? Tom, yeah. Hasn't named Tom yet, but that's who he becomes. He's in Coco's body and is just left on this merry-go-round in the pistons of a storm. So not great for a newborn baby. Coco is then obviously in the baby's body. And I have to say, I do think Ewan Bremner's voice work was good here as the baby.
It was okay.
I thought it was good. I mean, the bits, where he's getting breastfed, oh, fucking Barry. And he's telling Rory to shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, you specky cunt.
Well, you can't beat a bit of that.
Absolutely. And I thought the babies, whatever you want to call it, the special effects of the baby was quite good.
Special effects weren't bad, actually.
A better special effects baby than the one in Trainspotting.
Definitely.
I think.
Jesus Christ.
They could have gone the look who's talking route, though. They could have had the baby, but then there is some scenes coming up which, you
probably wouldn't want a baby involved.
No, absolutely. Baby Tom, aka Coco, it's in Coco's body. He's just lying on a hospital bed then, screaming at his mates. One of his mates scares him.
Himself.
Absolutely, as babies tend to do. I thought Ewan Bremner was quite good here, certainly for the screaming bit. But
I know he does the scream part very well.
We're treated to yet another sex scene here. It's a rompy affair with Martin Clunes and Gemma Redgrave here. And obviously the baby's standing up at the end of the cot watching them.
Giving a bit of commentary as well.
He is, yeah. Eyes on the fucking job, he's telling Rory. And then we see him pleasuring himself. So obviously it's probably good that this is a puppet baby here. More screaming from Coco at, I think it's at the doctor, is it?
He's screaming at everything.
He really is. But the doctor here is played by a woman who I don't have her name written down. I do. No, I don't have the woman's name written down, but she was in Taggart. I can assure you.
That's not Doreen again, is it?
Yeah, maybe it is.
I think it is.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Multitasking.
Absolutely, but she's explaining to his girlfriend here, who's called Kirsty. She is played by an actress called Arlene Cockburn, who only acted for a couple of years by the looks of things.
He used to work with a fella called Cockburn.
Yeah.
He was.
He wasn't called Mr. Red Raw Balls.
Only after a night out.
That was his first name. But yeah, the doctor is explaining to Kirsty that he now basically has a clean slate. He's kind of forgotten his previous life, which suits her fine.
She can mould him to whichever way he wants.
Yeah, she really does. She's relishing the opportunity to turn him into the perfect boyfriend here, keep him away from his Hibs mates and bringing him to outside jewellery shops to look at engagement rings. But on the other end of town, baby Coco, he's pissed in his cot and puking.
Watching his parents ride.
Yes, he's gotten hold of the whatever mini bar they have somewhere in the house. Jenny can smell the drink off him from his breath and his puke. At this point, he starts talking to Jenny. He can't stop himself because she's threatening to bring him down to Manchester, of all places.
Fate worse than death.
To her parents' house. She obviously gets a shock initially, but it's funny here, I think, where he's trying not to speak in his native Leith tongue to avoid suspicion. But I suppose that would be the least of her suspicion. Surely the fact that her baby is just talking to her in general, she's not going to wonder why he's speaking in a Leith accent. He talks her into staying put and giving him proper food and even going to the pub. And I thought there was a funny bit where they're out in a park and he spots a fly. Did you spot this bit?
No.
A fly comes down buzzing around him and baby Coco actually goes, Bob Coyle. So I don't know whether we've some sort of extraordinary life because he had this extraordinary life experience that he now becomes aware of other examples of supernatural behaviour, or whether the fact that Bob turned into a fly has become the stuff of legend around Leith now.
Yeah. Interesting.
And speaking of Bob, his dad is also then in the pub. Did you notice him at the bar?
Yeah, he didn't have anything sticking out of his arse though.
We didn't really see his arse. He could have. But he seemed pretty composed. But I think Coco, the baby tells him, "What are you looking at, you baldy cunt?" And he basically has talked Jenny into bringing him to the pub so he can be close to his Hibs mates. And I love the line that the real swedging starts after the match. It's then that he catches Coco Tom, as we call him, his attention. And they come face to face then. And I suppose it's slightly different to the book. You know, in the book they had this
kind of bus, is it?
They meet on a bus and obviously, I think we spoke about it in the book where Coco, the baby, as we say, has been molded into the perfect boyfriend, whereas Coco, the child, is almost reverting back to being a child as well. He loses the ability to speak. But in this, basically, they have this weird experience again and they touch. And when that happens, we get another quick montage of the Hibbs boys and Coco on the playground. The bit that you really loved.
Yes, that's shite.
And the birth. And then it becomes obvious that they've swapped bodies once again. And Coco jumps up. Back to square one. And once again, Coco jumps up and roars his name. He loves saying his name.
He really does. I've never met a man who likes to say his name as much as say old Coco.
And that's it. We get the Verve On Your Own plays out the film. And that's kind of the end of it. So let's speak about our favourite bits.
Definitely Bob Senior and Dory. Quality stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have another section covered up most disturbing, and they're in there as well. But
I don't find that disturbing at all. It's just a loving relationship between long-standing husband and wife.
Well, no, they do play. In fairness, I think all of the story is pretty loyal to the way it was written in the book, and that's probably down to Irvine Welsh writing the screenplay for this as well, the script. Which he apparently didn't like, but it is pretty loyal. But yeah, I think the casting of Bob Senior and Doreen was inspired. They played it to a T. I do like Ewan Bremner's performance, I have to say. Not the initial part. As we say, Coco's not a very likable
he's not
character.
bad as the child, but...
Yeah, the voiceover work is good, isn't it?
But I don't... He shouldn't have been... He was cast wrong.
Possibly so, yeah. And I mean, he was probably cast because obviously he was willing to do this film and he had the star power of having been in Trainspotting, and
they could have had him as the soft touch.
Yeah.
There was many he could have been. He could have been Bob even.
Absolutely, yeah. He's not. He doesn't look lazy at all in that regard. Yeah, soft touch maybe so, but I do like Kevin McKidd's performance in that.
Performance in that was absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's our favourite bits, I suppose. In terms of most disturbing, then. I do have down shite in my mouth, and obviously we've established now that it's really a more lovable part of the film. It
Absolutely
should have been the catchphrase. This should have been the selling point.
The film should have been just PG, just for that alone.
This should have been what they went to the States with. This should have been sent to Sean Connery, and that would have clinched the deal.
Straight away, he would have been signed up. Most disturbing. I found a few bits disturbing. I'm trying to think now.
Well, that dog shite was a bit disturbing looking, as you said.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? The bit where it's just Coco in the fucking... where he gets hit by lightning. That's just... Yeah.
I mean, you could describe it as disturbing.
It goes on way too long.
It does, yeah. It does go on too long, and it's very... As you say, I know the desired effect they were going for.
I know, they could have done that within a minute, but they fucking went on for about 10 minutes. And then, of course, he just keeps shouting Coco.
He does.
Shut up.
Okay, so let's get into this the next section, which is called Connecting Lines. Yeah, Connecting Lines is just a quick section I like to do, which talks about any connections with other Irvine Welsh pieces of work. So
he certainly does like to do this.
Indeed. So obviously in this, we're talking about actors, not so much characters. We know from the Acid House book that Spud and Swanee and Raimi are mentioned at one point. But actors-wise, obviously Kevin McKidd and Ewan Bremner were in Trainspotting more famously. The actor who plays Tambo here, the long-haired Adonis, the star striker, he was in Trainspotting 2. He was in the prison scene at the start involving Begbie. I don't think his character is named or anything like that.
Wasn't so much of it Adonis then.
No, certainly not. And also Michelle Gomez, who plays the lovely Katrina in A Soft Touch. She was in a TV show called Wedding Bells, which Irvine Welsh wrote in 2007, as was Gary McCormick, who played the lovely gentleman Larry. And he was also the bass player, incidentally, of Edinburgh punk band The Exploited at one point.
Larry was a good lad.
And that's Connecting Lines. More of those in the next episode. So we're into overall thoughts. So, Jem, go on. Tell us what you really think. What did you think of the Acid House?
Initially, I thought it was shite. Well, no. When I saw it the first time, which was years ago, I thought it was all right. I watched it again recently, and I thought it was shite. Really terrible film. But I've read the book. The book is good. The book
we
is well.
know you've read the book. We talked about it.
The book isn't great. It isn't my favourite Irvine Welsh one. I think they could have done more with the film. It was poor enough. It was a poor enough film. Like going over it over the last hour, it seems good. But I remember watching it and thinking, God, this is shite. And that sort of feeling doesn't leave you. What about yourself?
Fair enough. Well, look, I thought it was a fun little movie. And
Some parts were good. Some parts were funny, but other parts were
yeah. I mean, what about the 3 stories that they chose out of the other stories in the book? But do you think any of the stories would have been better suited?
Yeah, I think the 2 philosophers would have been a good one to put in.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that down actually. It's possibly a little bit too short, but they could have worked more into it.
In fairness, they could have easily expanded that because that was a good one.
Yeah, and the same with maybe Granny's old junk. There was something there, but some of the stories in that book are just unfilmable.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are pretty short and pretty poor as well.
And that one where the debris meets the sea, I mean, could they have gotten Kylie Minogue and Madonna and Kim Basinger to play themselves?
They probably could have. Connery would have been on board if he got them.
Well, considering they were aiming for the stars with Sean Connery here, why not go for Kylie Minogue as well? But,
a smart cunt then as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue.
I would have thought a smart cunt would have been a whole film.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's a novella, so they probably could get it. I mean, they still could. This stuff is out here. I mean, I mentioned on my Trainspotting episodes that I still think they could make a TV series out of Trainspotting.
Oh, yeah,
which is a lot more loyal to the book. But yeah, as regards the Acid House here, I mean, as I say, I think it's a fun little movie. I think the 3 stories they chose, it achieved what it set out to do. I mean, it was loyal, as I say, to the book, and that's probably down to Irvine Welsh's involvement in the screenwriting. Probably not to overthink it too much, except maybe for the soft touch portion, which puts forward, I suppose, the opinion that people never change. And it's definitely the most thought-provoking story out of the 3. But there's obviously the subject of God in there in his perceived ways. But I mean, you don't have to read into that too much if you don't want to. It doesn't really give that impression, really. But it's more in a light and quick way in the Granton Star cause. But I think the director did most of what he had to work with here, both budget-wise. I think the effects were okay.
The effects weren't bad, yeah. And
the script, which is what he was given, obviously, by Irvine Welsh. Irvine Welsh apparently doesn't like this, but that's his opinion.
I agree with her.
Well, when I say he doesn't like his script of it, not the finished. He thinks the film is enjoyable as well. And as we say, I think they've picked the best stories for it. But yeah, the other thing to mention, I mean, this came out so soon after Trainspotting, so it was always going to be compared to Trainspotting. So it was always fighting a losing battle there, I think. But
like the fact that it came out after Train, it feels, when you watch it, you feel like this was filmed years before Trainspotting.
Yeah.
It seems like a...
Well, I didn't find in my extensive research, I didn't find what the budget was here, but I imagine it wasn't much.
I wouldn't say so.
I mean, I think it was film 4 as well involved in it. So budget wouldn't have been sky high for, the mid or late 90s. This is 1998. Yeah, I mean, overall scores for myself, I think I'd give it 2 out of 5. And that's thinking, films like Trainspotting or The Shining or something like that is what I would give 5. So I'd have to give this 2.
Yeah, 1.5.
1.5 from Jem.
Yeah, it's...
Fair enough.
It's not great.
Okay. That's cool. So that's the Acid House.
It's good to talk about, in fairness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're finished talking about it now.
Let's never talk about it again.
Well, that's the Acid House. And yes, the next episode, we're going to be discussing Irvine Welsh's next book, which is Marabou Stork Nightmares.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. It is a good book. So, it's goodbye from me.
And see you from me.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.